Villain Jasmine. Hashtag let her be a villain. Hey guys, long time no see, my bad. Things happened. Basically, I was spending every moment I had available to work on book 3 of the Idun Trilogy. I'll put the cover up here for Grave of Brothers. That's coming out in October, but we're not talking about my books today. We're actually going to talk about A Whole New World by Liz Braswell. Now, I've already read and semi-reviewed this book before, but I did it in my giant ranking, and one of my goals this year was to reread each of the books and do an individual review on them to see if my feelings have changed, but also because there are more books in the Twisted Tales coming out, and I'm going to have to re-rank them. So rather than making that another 2-hour video plus, we're getting out the review parts separately so you can just like skip through and see what I thought. So without further ado, let me read the summary for you guys. All right, so this is the first installment in the Twisted Tale series. So this is way back, book 1. And Liz Braswell is the most prominent author throughout the Twisted Tale series. She is one of my favorites. I think between her and Elizabeth Lim, like those are my favorite too. Without further ado, here is the book blurb. When Jafar steals the genie's lamp, he uses his first 2 wishes to become sultan and the most powerful sorcerer in the world. Agrabah lives in fear, waiting for his 3rd and final wish. To stop the power-mad ruler, Aladdin and the deposed Princess Jasmine must unite the people of Agrabah in rebellion. But soon their fight for freedom threatens to tear the kingdom apart in a costly civil war. What happens next? A street rat becomes a leader, a princess becomes a revolutionary, and readers will never look at the story of Aladdin in the same way again. So that's the description of the book. Now, obviously, it's pretty accurate to the story. In rereading this, I don't think my feelings have improved. This didn't make my top 5. I don't think it might have been somewhere in the top half. I know it got uber bonus points because Jafar was a villain. Like, he done some messed up stuff. But I still wasn't feeling Aladdin and Jasmine's character arcs in this, if you want to call it that. I'm going to read through my notes, but my overall review is still middle of the pack. I think a big part of that for me was a lot of things felt convenient, and especially with Jasmine kind of rising up and becoming a revolutionary, like they tried to reinforce that with her being more educated, etc. But in this situation, it felt like she took over, and Aladdin, who's like, this is Aladdin's story, guys. Aladdin got kind of, not totally shafted, but what did he pretty much did a lot of the like raids because they were looking for this magic book, and then he's like the one leading the infiltration parties and stuff. So he's more on the action side of it, while she is more on the planning side. And I didn't really care. Maybe I'll remember something else while I read through my notes. So if you want spoilers, keep watching because I'm gonna literally go through the story as I took detailed notes. So in this book, we enter with a prologue, and that shows us Aladdin's mom as Aladdin is brought home by a merchant for stealing. At the time, Aladdin has 2 friends, Morgana and Duban, who aren't the best influences. They're definitely already street mats. They are street rats committed to, well, they don't really have a choice. They have to steal to survive, you know. But Aladdin is good boy, and the merchant allows them to keep the food that he stole since they're so poor. And he even got a couple extra things hidden in his pocket. So this is also our first introduction to Razul before he gets promoted to like captain of the guard. Chases Aladdin for stealing a loaf of bread later, pretty much right out of the movie. Now that we're at the point of him chasing the bread, he's already grown up a bit. His mom is dead and his father never returned. So far we are on track with the movie. I'm going to reference the movie a lot because that's what we're all referencing here. It's a Disney Twisted Tale. This next scene is also mostly out of the movie. But one day, a rich girl appears in the market, giving a hungry boy an apple without paying. She's about to lose her hand, but Aladdin swoops in for a rescue. He plays dumb, and they almost get away when Abu is caught stealing. Like in the movie where you see she kind of acts like she's not quite all there, she immediately jumps into that role as well here in the book, and then Abu kind of ruins the plan. They are chased across the roofs parkour style. Us knowing that this is Jasmine, like, this is one of those things where I'm like, okay, you were raised in the palace. You probably weren't climbing roofs and like jumping between, like, was Jasmine doing parkour in the movie? Remind me in the comments. Anywho, so they escape and they reach Aladdin's home. They think they're safe enough to get all cozy and almost kiss, and then the guards show up, breaking them up because Jafar sent the guards after them. Now, I don't like the insta-lust. Now, is this insta-lust? No. Is it insta-love? It's getting there. For me personally, I was like, oh really, we're just gonna kind of lean into that. Again, it's me questioning, like, granted, again, it happened, sort of was leading toward that in the movie, but now that we're in the characters' heads and we kind of have like a background on them, I'm like, but would you, Jasmine, really just decide to kiss this random boy? Like, are you that kind of princess? But the reason why Jafar sent the guards is because we previously got a little snippet of him observing Aladdin as the only one pure enough to enter the Cave of Wonders. In this scene, he does mention Iago, but we don't have Iago as a talking parrot. We actually don't even see Iago, which we'll talk about later. So Al ends up in the dungeon, gets help from Abu, and gets his shackles off. Then an old man shows up, offering him rubies and more treasure if he will help him enter the Cave of Wonders and retrieve a lamp. Same as the movie. Even to the point where Abu is tempted and Carpet is stalking them through the Cave of Wonders. Once Al gets the lamp, Abu triggers the trap by touching the monkey god's ruby, and chaos ensues as they try to escape. Now, I have a note in here that this is where the audiobook was falling quite literally flat for me, because we have such great actors in the movie for Jafar and for the voice of the Cave of Wonders. That presence was not here in the audiobook, so it was very underwhelming. Like, if we had that really booming presence of the Cave of Wonders, I think this would have been a more immersive experience. There are some things where it's like, I really fault it because I'm taking it from a different material. But this, I just made a note that I was kind of like, the audiobook, yeah. So they fly to the exit as they're trying to escape. The old man gets the lamp, stomps on Aladdin's fingers, and he falls. Up to here, we are like scene for scene for the movie. Later, we switch to Jasmine, who hasn't showered or done anything since returning to the palace the day before, except sulk and be very annoyed with Razul. If that's a life you're used to, you don't just suddenly not want to shower. It just seemed like they were trying to make her grungy. No, just go take a shower. You can still be a clean princess and pout and sulk about being caught. She goes to her father in the study, and he is building his animal pyramid and complains of Jafar taking the street rat. Jafar then shows up, reveals the lamp, and takes control from the Sultan. For some reason, Jasmine feels the need to note that Iago is not with him, and from what I remember, Iago's been dead, like, for a while. Possibly sacrificed. So it's like, why is she mentioning it now when it seems like it's been a longer time that Iago's not been there? Of course, they didn't specify time. It kind of triggered in my brain like, no, I think we know he's dead. The genie is unexpectedly charming and fun, not the serious one Jasmine expected, which again, sadly, doesn't carry the same tone without Robin Williams. When they don't bow down to Jafar, he uses wish number 2 to become an all-powerful sorcerer. Now he is fully in charge, not just Sultan, he is the all-powerful sorcerer in the world. He tries to use wish 3 to make Jasmine fall in love with him, but wish stipulations forbid it. If he's already made himself Sultan. Now, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, he made himself Sultan, he made himself the sorcerer, but to get the people's favor, he wanted to marry Jasmine. That way they would be more accepting of him and he wouldn't have to work as hard. You really don't need to even try that, but we're early on. It's wish number 3. He's going to save it in his pocket for later. We all know what he does with it. But they did do that where he tried to force her to love him, and it didn't work. Same scene here. Jafar goes out to the balcony to show the people how much better a ruler he will be. He sends coins raining down from the sky, and then I have a note here to read the end of chapter 6. Alright, so he sends down the coins, yada yada yada. Jasmine turned her face away, repulsed by the show of greed. When the initial rush was over, they finally began to cheer. Long live Jafar! Jafar visibly relaxed, finally getting something that he really wanted out of the day. After a moment, he turned to the 3 standing behind him. He put a hand on the old sultan's chest. There, you see, he said with a sneer. That is real power. And then he pushed the sultan over the balcony. Freaking ruthless Jafar! So that emotion was the same pure, like, from when I first read it, where he kills the sultan, just pushes him over the balcony. As the crowd's down there and Jasmine's right there, it's ruthless. This is why Jafar got villain points, particularly this scene. So let's jump back to Aladdin, right? Switchy, switchy. Al is digging himself out of the collapsed cave, and it takes 3 days, but he finally escapes with Abu and Carpet. They fly back to Agrabah, where a grand parade is being held. Al notices the performers oddly look alike, and that Jafar has a genie and the lamp. He figures out Jafar was the old man and is leery of him using magic to find him. Then goes looking for the street rats whom he may have a troubled past with. So earlier, like in the prologue, he was friends with Morgana and Duban. It seems like he's been running solo for a while. Jasmine mourns her father with Raja and no sympathy from Jafar. As by tradition, Jafar insists that Jasmine will marry him, and somehow he'll find a way to subvert the terms and use Genie to raise a dead army. So now he's just like, I'm going to force you to marry me and use my 3rd wish to make more magic happen. Genie knows that Jafar is a baddie, but can't help it, he has to obey. In Jafar's boasting, he throws Raja across the room, injuring him as a threat. Jafar then leaves Genie with Jasmine to construct her wedding dress. Jasmine calls him out for helping Jafar, and Genie reveals that he's been trapped for 10,000 years. So this is kind of where my brain had a little light bulb reaction, and I was like, if he's been trapped for 10,000 years, how is he using these agnostic terms, like he's sounding like he's from New York and like referencing more current things? Now in the movie it makes sense because maybe it doesn't make sense, but I think we just kind of glossed over it because it's more of the comedic aspect of taking on different impersonations. It's Robin Williams, it's what he do. In this, it didn't make sense because he's been trapped for 10,000 years. And I don't even get the impersonations. I get like this kind of charming Genie. It didn't play off well in the book. Anyway, Genie goes on to explain that Jinn once used to exist, and he had a wife who was purple. Genie sought out to be what he is, assuming he would have unlimited power, but at a cost. Now that the Jinn are gone and Genie remains in servitude, ... because that's kind of the rest, that's all we get for that story. We don't get to learn too much more about Genie, we just get this little backstory that's basically like, I was married and happy, and I wanted power, I became a genie, and I was trapped, and here I am. Jasmine sympathizes with him since she's trapped in her own way. Genie makes her dress, but it's not the traditional bedazzled style. He makes it like his wife's, which is a bit more Grecian sounding, like with flowy, sort of rappy styles. Back to Aladdin, he's made it to the lair of the street rats. Morgana and Duban are there. She's less excited to see him. They aren't hungry as food has been plentiful and things since the regime change haven't been too bad, so Jafar's making the people happy. He's keeping their bellies full. They inform Al of the upcoming wedding, which he is determined to stop. Meet the princess once, gotta save her from the ugly vizier. The little thieves that kind of work under Morgana come back with more gold, and this was Al's issue with her and why he left them, apparently. He claims to only steal what he needed while she does it to make a profit and, like, run a business. There's some odd phrasing in the dialogue, like, oh, you're fighting for women's rights now. That's, even now thinking of the scene, it felt like it was thrown in there to mean something to us now, but not quite matching the story. Because, like, the women were doing stuff. I mean, yeah, Jasmine was trapped, but Jasmine was trapped. She's a princess. She's got responsibilities. So the term for, like, fighting for women's rights came up while Al was saying he wants to save Jasmine. And then again, when they talk about taking care of themselves when no one else will. So I feel like him wanting to save Jasmine is just him being the hero. I digress. After the city has celebrated and gone to sleep, Al sneaks into the palace via the tunnel Jafar led him through from the dungeon. He comes across many of Jafar's guards who are all a bit too similar before finding the library full of the Sultan's toys. Chastising him for playing while the people suffered, Al continues searching until he finds a garden, and from there, Jasmine. She was also trying to escape, so this works out. Super convenient. Jasmine wants to save Genie, but they don't have time. As they're escaping the palace, they run into Razul. They're chased through the garden, where Carpet loses a tassel and it impairs them flying, so they have to leave him behind. Al climbs up a column to escape, which starts to fall over, and Al asks Carpet to save Razul, but he ends up tangled and the column kills Razul as it falls over. Sad. Like I said, they have to leave Carpet and Raja behind because Raja couldn't escape the garden. While catching their breath, Al explains how Jafar got the lamp, and Jasmine says she thought it was her fault. Well, Al says it's not, but it is that she ran away without thinking of the consequences. Just referencing back to the whole, like, oh, you're fighting for women's rights, and then for him to be like, it felt very snappy of like, well, you didn't think of the consequences when you ran away. And I was like, what? Excuse me, sir. It didn't feel like Aladdin. It didn't. It felt like it was banter for the sake of pointing things out to the reader rather than what he would say. Anywho, they meet up with Morgana and Juban and plan to fight back. We're already going to jump into that. Build their own army against Jafar while Jasmine rallies faith in the people. Meanwhile, also sad scene. Jafar has Carpet strung out and is cutting him into strips while he writes. He talks to Iago again, who is not there. Again, Iago's dead, so I think this is just kind of illustrating Jafar's level of insanity and attachment to Iago. The street rat kids arrange a heist on a caravan, causing a distraction so Al can get the goods in the carriage. He leaves dressed as a woman, then meets with Morgana on the way. They missed each other in a friendly way, but Al only has eyes for Jasmine. So they are getting a little flirty, but Al quickly stamps it out and is like, nah, princess. Sorry, old friend of mine, who is gorgeous, but no. While they walk, they come upon a tent distributing bread to those who swear loyalty to Jafar. At the hideout, Raja shows up with a ribbon and note from the genie telling them to look for a certain book among the caravans. So clearly the genie knows what they're trying to do and is trying to help them without Jafar's knowledge. Duban's elderly dad is there cooking despite his wooden leg. Al is fond of him, so I suspect he's gonna die. Jasmine has set up a strategic display on a table with pieces representing them and Jafar's guard. Suddenly she has that interest and ability. On the wall is 4 claw marks from Raja, and it becomes their new symbol, the new symbol of their resistance, which is what they call the Mark of Raja. Jasmine tells Al the book El Azif is about magic for the dead and undead. They go to check the books they lifted from the caravan while Jasmine teases him about Morgana. Slight jealousy here, unnecessary though. They don't have the book, which Jasmine wants to keep for herself to use against Jafar. And this is the second time in this book that I'm like, ooh, Jasmine could go villain. That would be a twist. And that, like, she is leading up to it. The first was when she, like, wanted to take revenge for her father. Understandably. But, like, the way she wanted to take revenge was like, ooh, that's spicy. It's a little bad. And then this, I'm like, oh yeah, she could be the villain. Kind of wish she went that direction. She admits her father wasn't the best ruler and asks Al about his family. He explains his mother always held out for his father, who was a lot like Aladdin, and then she died of weakness. Al and Jasmine make up, sharing a kiss. Ta-ta, we've hit it, we've done it. The romance is official. She's already making quite an impression on the townspeople at this point, you know, gathering up people for the resistance. And Jafar is also questioning the people on the whereabouts of Jasmine and the street rats, but no one answers. Genie meets with Jasmine secretly to share more secrets. Secretly secret sharing. Explaining certain limits to their magic. This is another place where I noted I don't understand how he's making modern references when there hasn't been a claim to any time traveling and he has been trapped for 10,000 years in the lamp. Unless the lamp is like got a television in the future, because this is obviously not set in our modern time. Al and Duban are stealing together when a wealthy jeweler, Ahmud, comes upon them, he's on their side, and they take him to talk to Jasmine, explaining how frustrated these scholars, alchemists, etc. are, so all the skilled people in the city. While Jasmine and Morgana are... or Morgana? It's too late to correct me now. While they're out, a man spots them. He is branded by Jafar and is about to betray them. This is the first tipping point when they realize Jafar is going to force their loyalty, as he's pretty much forcing it upon the people, so they have to essentially start a war against him. There's another heist as they try to get the El Azif book, but it's a trap. Because, of course, if Genie can figure out what they're doing, don't you think Jafar can, magically watch them too? While they're out, Jafar took Duban's family and has trapped them in a giant hourglass. He also knows of Genie's meetings with Jasmine and has tortured Genie. There's a rotten smell at the hideout which has been ransacked, and they find undead guards in Jafar's service flying around with carpet tied at their wrists and ankles, including Razul. Why carpet? So pretty much Jafar goes megaphone version and calls on those loyal to him to bring out the street rats. We also get a throwaway comment that Jafar sacrificed Iago, the only one he cared about, to perform a blood magic. We're not told, which was it, the spell for him to find Aladdin? Because this was obviously before anything with the genie. But we know Jafar's the only one he cared about, even to the point where all the gold coins had Iago on the back of it. That's why I said it's a throwaway comment, because I'm and which spell was this? Because up until this point, Iago hasn't been present. Jafar expects them to attack head on, so they do what they do best and plan to steal from him. While Al talks to Morgana, he puts a finger on her mouth to shut her up, very forcefully, which is, again, I'm that doesn't feel like Aladdin. There's also a line that said, literally, taking it from the man, and I'm that's a modern term, I think. I couldn't tell you the history of it, but again, it felt modern, out of place for the story. One group with Jasmine at the head will lead the frontal attack, while others, including the scholar, alchemists, and mothers, make their own forces. So we're recruiting all of the skilled people to do what they do best, make some bombs, use physics to make things fall over. Pretty convenient that we have all these people here who are just ready and willing. Seems like Jasmine is the one coming up with the clever plan, which would make more sense if she talked with the educated people at least a little bit. They have meetings and she's just the one designating everything. I think there's a point where some of them offer ideas, maybe in another scene. But the initial one, I was who put you in charge? I might be too strict on it, but again, I did not quite jive with this version of Aladdin and Jasmine. So while they're doing their little plan stuff, Duban will go steal the books while Morgana rescues his family. That way he doesn't make an emotional decision, because he's seeming to get a bit desperate to help them. Al and Jasmine are still on opposite ends when it comes to the El Azif, as far as does Jasmine keep it and go villain, or if they destroy it. Kind of in their arguments, even though Jasmine's getting a little toward the villain side, it's justified in a way, we understand it, whereas Aladdin just feels too pure and good, and I know that's the whole reason he could go into the Cave of Wonders, but also too pure. Not if you shutting people up and saying they didn't think of the consequences and you snap at them. So then the attack begins. Al, Duban, and Morgana sneak into the palace. Jasmine is at the warehouses with the group. She summons Raja to hunt the guards, and he leads the attack. An explosion hits the old hideout. They have to worry about those who died turning into ghouls, so they're restraining a lot of them, just in case. And Jasmine refuses to kill an injured man, but he dies and then turns into a ghoul, because we just talked about this. They will turn into a ghoul. So as they're all just over there praying over him, he attacks, and then they kill him, for realsies. P.S. Al has left Abu at home for this whole excursion so he'd be free, and wrote him out of the story. I mean, come on. He's part of the team. Leaving someone else in charge to deliver strategic orders, Jasmine sneaks out and away from her group. Everything goes to plan without her anyway, so it's fine. She finds a ghoul and turns herself in to Jafar. While moving through the palace disguised as guards, Aladdin and the others run into real guards and stumble their way into turning Morgana over. They pretend they captured her and turned her over as they pretend to be guards. Jasmine, who turned herself over to Jafar, is saying there's been too many deaths and she will marry him to end it all. Jafar is, of course, suspicious. Good job, Jafar. Duban's family is still in the hourglass, and Genie has clearly suffered quite a bit from his own torture. Al and Duban try to get into the secret passage to the throne room, but smart burly guards are there, and Duban gets injured, but they do make it through to the end of the passage where Razul is waiting. Jafar is sure he'll break the other rules of magic. Immediate wedding time, like right here, right now. You say you want to marry me, we're going to get married right now. Okay, good. I do. And they announce it, like, again, megaphone mode, to the city so that everybody stops and they come to a truce. And the reason why this feels very, like, jumpy is because it's quite quick POV switches at the end here, and it's quite literally doing this. Al tries to reason with Razul. He finally reaches through, and Razul drops his scimitar, staring off into nothingness. So he's still a ghoul. He's just not going to fight out. The quick marriage ceremony proceeds, and Jasmine's trying to stall it as long as she can. She does see Al sneaking in and make a move for the book, but at that point, evil creatures leap out at Al. As Jasmine tries to distract Jafar with a kiss, he's already figured it out, sweetie. You ain't fooling nobody. Aladdin is caught. Jafar is impressed enough to make an offer of alliance with Aladdin to bring back his mother, allied with him and do what? He doesn't have anything. But of course Aladdin declines, and Jafar says he will win and Al will be forever alone. But no street rat is ever alone. Duban and Morgana leap out to attack, and even Jasmine tries to aid the distraction. The room catches on fire. They go back and forth until Jafar catches on that Aladdin loves Abu. So Jafar threatens Abu's life, but Abu ain't there. Yet, him threatening Abu made more of an impact than him trying to bring his dead mother back. While that's going on, Duban is severely injured. Aladdin shifts to try and attack Jafar's staff to stop his sorcerer power, since it's all coming out of the little cobra staff thingy. The magic from it seeps into her, so she raises it above her head and begins a spell. She is prepared to kill Jafar. Cries under her torture, "Villain Jasmine! Hashtag let her be a villain." Al convinces her to stop because he pure good boy. Regardless, she was about to kill Jafar. Hashtag villain Jasmine. Hashtag let her be a villain. She smashed it into the hourglass, essentially releasing Duban's family. But Duban has grabbed El Azif and strikes Jafar with black lightning. So he uses a spell from the book to strike Jafar, killing him. And as Jafar is dying, he makes his third wish that all magic dies with him. I guess if I can't have it, no one will. So all the ghouls re-die. Genie becomes an ordinary man. Duban's family isn't happy with his intention to kill, but Al calls Duban out that it was his plan all along. So, aside from it being very underwhelming that his third wish is just taking away all the magic so things are essentially back to normal, why you gotta turn on Duban like that when Jasmine was literally borderline villain, and Duban is just... Sure, he did a bad thing, but like it felt like it came down harder on him, and I'm like, no, you don't deserve that. He's been your loyal best friend. So Agrabah is a mess because magic being gone does not fix everything. She shouts from the balcony, but few hear her, and they carry her on the shoulders so that people can see her, see that she is now Sultana. The procession continues, but as the ex-thieves and street rats are a bit uncomfortable, people realize what happened. Eventually, like, Jafar is gone, all the threats are gone, and they cheer. Raja joins them, uninjured, and acting like a puppy, which cats don't do. Al calls out for Abu, happy in knowing he would be fine forever, like there was no threat to him, he's safe. But then Abu, like, stubbornly sulks away from Aladdin, and everyone bows to Jasmine. All hail villain Jasmine. And then there's an epilogue, which is really quick. The people were basically tired from restoring and celebrating. Genie plans to travel the world, and Duban decides to go with him, unable to face his family since he killed Jafar. Jasmine makes Morgana her grand vizier, and Aladdin her prince. The end. Alright, so now that you've gone through my notes with me, maybe you understand why I'm like, it's middle of the pack, because the ending was very underwhelming. It didn't carry a lot of impact that we got from the movie just because of the acting itself, which is no fault. I did physically read an audiobook it on the second round just to get through it, which physically reading I could at least picture the voices, so it was better. I am still not convinced on the characters that Jasmine and Aladdin became. Why did Abu just walk away from Aladdin? There's just so many things where I wouldn't have done that. Regardless, Braswell is still one of my favorite authors in the Twisted Tale series. I just don't think this one hit home. What did I rank it? Let's pull up what I ranked it and see Woof. In my overall ranking, I gave this an 8 out of 10. Not like 80%. Like, it didn't make top 5. It was on 8 out of 10, only followed by Mirror Mirror and Conceal Don't Feel. Ooh. I still feel that way though. It didn't hit, it didn't sing with me. Maybe you guys have different opinions. Let me know in the comments below. But there are going to be at least 4 or 5 more books in the next ranking. So we'll see if this holds an 8 or if it continues to hang out in the bottom 3, because yikes. Now it's probably going to be bottom 4 because I can think of another one that's down there. Thank you for watching this review of A Whole New World by Liz Braswell. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Feel free to like, subscribe, and check out the ranking video if you haven't already, or the other reviews, as I am going through each book and reviewing them individually in preparation for the next giant ranking. Hashtag let her be a villain.